Grown is a podcast from the Moth. Please like and subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
So 2020 sucked, and then I broke my ankle in 3 places. Indoor dining had just opened in limited capacity, and my then boyfriend and I went on a date for the first time in months. And we're sitting in this restaurant, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I get up. And this is a restaurant I'd been to before, and I knew where the bathroom was, but I think being inside a restaurant for the first time after a long time, I was kind of disoriented. I didn't realize how loud restaurants were. And this particular restaurant had a little water fountain situation in the middle of it. And I walked in the wrong direction because I think I was just so overwhelmed. And when I realized I was going the wrong way, I spun around, took one step, and that's when it broke. And I knew instantly it was broken, so I pulled my shoe off, and I'm lying on the floor of this restaurant holding my already swollen ankle in my hand. And it's so loud that the only people that have really noticed that this has happened are the people I'm directly next to, literally who are mid-dinner. And then I started screaming and more people realized. And I was very aware of the fact that this was probably a bizarre scene. I think someone even took a photo, which I'm not mad at. It was a weird scene, me holding my foot in the air in the middle of this restaurant. But I kept screaming until the ambulance came. I kept screaming after they left with me in it into the hospital, where they wrapped me up, put me in a hard cast, and I sat on my ass for the next month.
Did that make you rethink your relationship with your body?
Yeah, I think not having access to my full range of motion really woke me up to the privilege that I have of being able-bodied and gave me a whole new appreciation for the skin that I'm in. I think I never really was fully aware of my body as it is, but I live in it every day and it takes care of me. And I think through this experience, I learned to take care of it a little bit more. Grown.
I'm Fonzo.
And I'm Aleeza.
And this is Grown, a podcast from the Moth full of stories about what it means to grow up.
In this episode, we're going to be looking at one of the most important parts of growing up, how your body changes, gets weirder, sometimes grosser, but becomes something new.
First up is Beyer-Chafets with a story that's all about finding yourself in your own body.
Hi. So when I was a little girl, I had a pair of gigantic boobies. When they started to come in, I was pretty excited about it, mostly because I didn't know initially that they were going to be gigantic. I was just like, sweet boobies, which came with, a lot of clout in the 6th grade. And as the summer approached, I was really excited to go to the local Target and buy a bathing suit, not from the children's section, but from the women's section. And, at this point, my boobs weren't huge. They weren't small, but I needed an extra small bottom and an extra large top. And I bought this bikini, and I wore it around, and I felt super cool. But then my boobs did this thing where they kept growing a lot. And by the next summer, when I needed a new bathing suit, I found out that I couldn't buy them at Target anymore, at all. I had sized out of Target bathing suits by 13. I had to buy my bathing suits now on a website called bigassbras.com. And they sell these special bras and bathing suits for women who have abnormally large breasts. And they're hideous and sad and expensive. And the bathing suits come in all of one style and all of 2 colors. You can choose between black and gray. And once I bought these bathing suits, I realized that I had a choice between either wearing them in public, which after doing that a couple of times, I realized wasn't really an option because it solicited so much attention from boys and girls and men. And then the other option was to just sit on the sidelines in a t-shirt at every pool party and beach vacation. So that's what I did. I did that for about 10 years as my boobs grew and grew and never stopped growing. And around that time is when I was asked for the first time if I would consider getting a breast reduction. when I was 12, 13, I was like, I just kind of got these things and I kind of want to see where it goes. I mean, they're probably going to stop growing soon, right? Right? But they didn't. And I kept getting asked by friends and friends' parents and strangers on the street, anybody who looked at my body and said, hey, you're kind of shaped like the number 7. Are you thinking about correcting that pathology, like with surgery? And eventually, as I went from A to B to C to D to double D to triple D to F to G to H to I to J, I had to think about it a little bit more seriously. And so that's where I was at last summer and last winter, and I was slated to have one of those summers again on the sidelines in a t-shirt. But that's when I decided to let a surgeon slice me open, take 2.5 pounds off of my body, sew me back up, and send me back out for summer of 2021. Thank you. So I've had to sort of, get used to my new body, but I'm psyched about it. There's a lot of things that are great, and I can't get into all of them here for time, obviously, but one major one is back pain. That's like gone. It was debilitating and chronic before. It's over. I don't have to worry when I wear a button-down shirt anymore that the buttons are going to go flying all over the place at any given moment, and I can finally do that pose in yoga where you put your legs up in the air without feeling like I'm going to suffocate under the mass of my own chest. But perhaps most excitedly, the other day, I went to Target. And I bought not 1, but 2 bathing suits in my size, off the rack, like anybody else. And I don't want to make it sound like I just had this thing I didn't like about my body and decided to change it with surgery, because there was a lot between point A and point B. I went to a lot of therapy. I dealt with a lot of pain, both physical and emotional. I had the eating disorders, and I worked to get my self-esteem high and to try and really love myself. And I hit a ceiling at a certain point with acceptance. I just accepted my body, and that was huge for me, and I was happy with it for a little while. But at a certain point, I felt like there might be something beyond that, and that if I had the courage to just reach out and grab it, that maybe I could find this kind of like self-love of my body, to really love it, not just to tolerate it and feel neutral about it, but to love it. And now that I'm a couple months post-op, I can safely say that I do love my new body, but I found something maybe a little bit more substantial than love. I found peace, because this summer, for the first summer since I was a little girl, I get to spend it at home in my body. Thank you.
That was Annie Beyer-Chafets. When we asked her how her younger self would describe her now, she said, "My younger self would probably be disappointed that I'm not a world-famous model, dancer, singer, actress married to Cole Sprouse with 3 children by now, and also that I haven't gotten much taller. But I think she would also be awed by the abundance of what I do have, that she always wanted most. Love, happiness, a strong sense of self, and an incredible collection of vintage clothes. Annie, I think we'd be besties."
Can't we all just marry Cole Sprouse? For more on Annie and her journey, go to themoth.org/grown. We'll also have information on every storyteller we feature there, bonus content, links to our social media, and all good stuff.
Up next, we'll share a story that looks at what it really means to be body positive. But first, Annie's story has got me thinking about, dun dun dun, puberty. Fonzo, what was puberty like for you?
Lonely, I guess. I grew up in a household of just women. It was just my mom and my 2 sisters. My father wasn't really around like that or present. So my mom didn't really know what to like, what was it like for, a male kid to go through puberty. But, yeah, how about you?
Oh, I mean, awful, like for everybody else, just puberty sucks. Your body changing can be weird. But I think my my mom prepared me pretty well, and she bought me all the like American Girl doll books on puberty that were really popular in the 2000s. So I had great illustrations on what body changes are. But then I would like compare myself to the illustrations and never felt like it was quite right. So that was fun. I think, though, like something that's really important for us to remember is that puberty is definitely a time of rapid body changes and growth, but we're always growing physically and emotionally and mentally. And I think the journey that we have with our physical selves is ongoing, and we shouldn't ever feel super pressured to have it all figured out by 17 or something, because I definitely don't have it figured out.
I wish I knew that back then.
Exactly. So speaking of growing, I'm wondering how you feel in your physical body. Like, you're a pretty tall guy, but have you ever felt small?
Yeah. Well, I'm 6 foot, by the way, since we're putting heights out there. No, let me play. Growing up where I in the South Bronx, where I came from, I always just felt small. I always wanted to be like my father, who was like a strong looking dude, you know what I'm saying? And I felt like inferior. I really felt like I couldn't defend myself. I was really small, and there were just always the bigger kids. And I had to, got into a lot of squabbles and didn't win. There was not a lot of winning. But, so I always felt like I needed to be bigger. But it was a struggle. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so frustrating when other people make you feel something that you've never felt independently. You know, like you didn't feel small until someone else made you feel small, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But I think getting to a point where you feel at home in your body is realizing that you are the only one really who gets to determine who you are, how you feel. And that can happen at any point. Like our next storyteller, she's young and she figured it out at a younger age. But I think it's an ongoing journey for lots of people too.
Yeah, definitely.
Now here's Adia Heyliger, one of the Moth's high school storytellers.
Okay, so when I was born, I had a body. So I just like think it's how everyone comes out. I'm not sure. But growing up, I didn't really know it was there, if that makes sense. It was just there. You have a head and then there's stuff behind. And so but I have a West Indian family, and I don't know if they make the right comments sometimes to little kids. You always hear little thing when you see a little family and they come around, you keep meeting new people every time you go to these family reunions. They're like, oh my God, when she gets older, she's a great body. I can tell, I'm 5. When I was like, she's gonna have a great body. So I'm like, all right, I don't know what that means. It's just a head and there's stuff underneath. But I was like, okay. So I was like, I just didn't listen to it. And I just kept going all throughout it, and then puberty. I was the first one in my friend group at the time to go through puberty. I got my period when I was 10 years old, and then things started growing, places where hair was coming in places I didn't know can come from. I was like, oh my God. And if you know, with puberty, smells happen. You can't really regulate these smells. And it just wasn't really working out for me. I couldn't figure it out. My mom couldn't figure it out. We were just like, what is going on? So I don't know why, but in middle school, I went to an all-girls middle school. And man, girls are terrible. And I was just like, all right, I'm good. Our school was so strict. We have to stand in a line, 2 lines, up the stairs. And then you're standing there in the stairs waiting for everyone to be quiet while we're going up the stairs to our next class. I hear, oh my God, it smells in here. And we had uniforms. So it was even worse. So you just had this baggy set of clothes on you all the time. And then when you weren't in school, I had dance. So I was just in a leotard all the time. And then when I wasn't in dance, I was in jeans and a t-shirt. So I just looked terrible all the time. And so I was like, I got to high school. I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear clothes. I'm going to follow all these Instagram fashion models, all these plus size people. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to make sure people know that I have a body. And I get to high school, freshman year, was not prepared. I was really not prepared. The first thing, I make friends. The first thing, oh my God, Adia, you have a nice butt. I was like, what is that? I'm like, and I just kept hearing, oh my God, Adia, you have a nice butt. Or I just hear from her, oh my God, look at that fatty down there. Oh my God. I was like, oh, please stop. And I was just like, I was always wanting to like bless people like purposely because they liked to see my reaction out of it. It's like, oh my God, you look so cute when you tell you that. Stop. And I don't know. I just had discovered Wendy's at the time. And so, you know that like freshman 15 you get like when you're in college? I got that in my freshman year of high school. So I went from like 110 pounds and I was now like 135. So I'd gained 25 pounds in like maybe 6 or 7 months. And so my mom did not like that very much. She was like, she's always like, you got to cover it so you don't get the wrong attention, you know, so men don't make comments about you. Again, I am like 15, 14. I don't know what this means. I don't even know if men exist, to be honest. Again, I went to an all-girls school. This is my first time talking to men, and I'm going to high school. So I'm like, all right, you're just here. No one's noticing you. You don't exist. It's just a head and everything down beneath. And I get to high school. I'm still wearing the T-shirts and the jeans. And I had just discovered like this really cool like style, a fashion style, like alternative. It was like Japanese fashion. I was like, oh, there's so many bright colors and pastels. I'm like, this is going to be me. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to get clothes. I'm going to get this stuff. So February of junior year, which is like swimsuit season for all the companies for some reason when it's like cold still. And I was like, showing my mom, like, Mom, what do you think of this bathing suit? It was like a bandeau top. It had like sleeves on the side and like the bottom was like a high-waisted, like French high cut thing. I was like, Mom, what do you think of the top? And she turns to me and she's like, she was like, at least she was going to tell me like someone had died or something. And she's like, you don't have the body to wear that anymore. I hope you understand. Like, it's just not how that works. Like, you have to cover up. It's not like you don't have the weight. It's not in the right places, so you can't wear that anymore. And I'm from a West Indian family. You don't talk back to your parents. And so I don't know what it was. I just went and I was like, you know what? I didn't ask you if you thought my body would look good in it. I asked you if you liked it. I know I will look good in it. And it doesn't matter if you don't think so. And she was like, well, I don't care. I guess whatever. And I had left the living room, gone into my bedroom, and I stared at myself in the mirror. And she's like, you know what? It's going to be here. It's not just a head and everything else down below. You have a body, so recognize it.
That was Adia Heyliger. When we asked her how her younger self would describe her now, she said, my younger self would say, I'm like how she imagined I would be, but with some extra things she didn't expect, aka spice.
Everyone has their own unique relationship to their bodies, and we wanted to get even more perspectives.
So we decided to hear from storytellers with the Moth's education program. Let's take a listen.
So my whole life, I've never been skinny, and I've always gotten comments like, suck in your tummy, or like, correct your posture. And one day, I'm not sure like why my mindset changed, but I decided to try not doing that for once. And I realized like how much tension my body was holding just to like look a certain way, and like how good it felt to just let it all go.
So I was really recently talking with my other friend who doesn't know their gender. We were talking about how much we dislike our boobs. And yeah, I guess that's like when like I was like, oh my God, I hate them so much. So I guess that's like my relationship with my body changed because I realized that I'm gender fluid. And like sometimes I really like them and like sometimes like, but I also have like a pretty small chest. So yeah, my perception of my body changed when I felt community about it, because my friend who doesn't know their gender either was like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, awesome. I love having people who can relate to me.
I thought I would never grow a beard and or a mustache. I thought I was just going to be baby-faced forever. But then towards the end of high school, I noticed these whiskers start to form on the area where a mustache would grow. And I realized, okay, time to get a razor out. So I took out a razor, started shaving my face, made a couple cuts pretty instantaneously. But then I was like, okay, I'm a real life adult.
So when I was younger, I was play wrestling with one of my bros, and he grabbed me by the stomach and suplexed me, but not that hard because, we was play wrestling. And he's like, bro, I felt some abs there, man. You been working out? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, well, I felt a little abs there, man. I'm like, you got something going on there, bro. Keep it up. And I felt good. I'm like, yeah, I got abs. I'm a man. I got this, man.
I was walking back from a play, and I'm in the middle of puberty. I'm a teenager, and I'm walking back from this play and this musical that I just saw, and all of a sudden I just start feeling the rain on my skin. And the world gets quiet even though there's traffic. And I just realize, you know what? I'm kind of incredible. This living being of mine is kind of amazing. I am amazing.
So, Fonzo, what's our next episode going to be about?
Well, both of our stories are going to be about how culture shapes us. Here's a clip.
I found solace in the stories of the women around me who recalled awkward times that they had their period. But most importantly, I felt proud that I'm part of a culture that celebrates this part in a woman's life.
Oh, it's going to be a really good episode. Well, if you want to talk to us about this week's episode, or really anything at all, hit us up on TikTok or Instagram at GrownPod.
And remember, no matter how old you are, you're never fully grown.
Alfonso Lacayo is a Moth alumni from the Bronx, New York. He's passionate, creative, and makes music. And if he's not hosting this podcast, you can find him putting essential oils in his hair.
Aleeza Kazmi is a multimedia storyteller, passionate about using the power of storytelling for the social good. If she wasn't hosting this podcast and had no student loan debt, she'd own the best restaurant in Queens with the best risotto you've ever had.
Grown's senior editor is Sarah Jane Johnson, and Grown's senior producer is Mark Solinger. That's me. With support from the Moth's executive producer, Sarah Austin Jeunesse, and our education and artistic teams. Adia Heyliger's story was directed by Melissa Brown, with additional coaching from Anesha Roy-Chowdhury and Nika Williams. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the work of the Moth's education team, Melissa Brown, Anna Stern, and Devin Elise Wilson, as well as our instructors past and present. Mixing is by Davey Sumner, with original music and sound design by Davey Sumner and Luke Williams. We're grateful to former producer Julia Purcell, intern K.A. Carter, our teen focus group, and everyone who was kind enough to send us audio for our montages. The rest of the Moth's leadership team includes Sarah Haberman, Catherine Burns, Jennifer Hickson, Meg Bowles, Kate Tellers, Jennifer Birmingham, Marina Kluche, Suzanne Rust, Brandon Grant, Leanne Gully, Inga Gladowski, and Aldi Kaza. All Moth stories are true, as remembered and affirmed by the storytellers. Grown is presented by PRX.